First of all, Jane, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk about your friendship with Olivia. This is one that has spanned years. Talk to me about the beginning of that friendship. How did you two meet?
My father was an obstetrician gynecologist who randomly was the doctor of her older sister, Rona. And Rona had a baby, Emerson, when she was in England, and then I think the marriage ended shortly after, and my father had seen her and said, I've never seen a woman so beautiful who just suddenly was tiny after she had a baby. I mean, this is like amazing. And he really liked her, and he said she sings, and she has a sister in America who sings too, and you're going to go to America, and she's going to go to America, so I've invited her over for family dinner. So we chatted, and we found out we were going at the same time, and she said, well, come help me out with Emerson. And I said, sure. You know, she said, well, we'll live together and share expenses, and you can help me. So I went, fine. So I then had to tell my father that the sister that sang was somewhat famous. Anyway, I went to America with her, and Olivia was on tour, and she was just beyond busy. We never even saw her. We couldn't find her at some point. And at one point, we were kind of homeless, I think, and with the baby, and it was pretty intense. And then Olivia arrived, and suddenly life was fantastic for Rona, and I had to find somewhere else to live. But we remained friends, really good friends, and I met Olivia, and Olivia was at the height of her fame, and I was just so in awe of her. I just went, wow, that's Olivia Newton-John. I mean, amazing. And she was so down to earth. She was, you know, just really kind of great. And then we saw each other a bunch, but the time that I really remember us bonding was when she realized that I was pregnant and I was going to have a baby. In the middle of, at that time, the biggest time of my career. I was on Broadway and Amadeus, I had East of Eden coming out, and I'd just done Christopher Reeve's Summer in Time. Nobody in their right mind has a baby then, right?
Jane Seymour does.
I did. And so I bring the new baby to the beach, because she was living in Malibu, and she said, can I? And she held the baby, and she looked, and it was a beautiful picture. I can't find, but I will find. And she just said, how do you do it? And I went, have a baby? We know how to make a baby. She said, no, how do you do it all? How are you going to do it? I said, well, I don't really know, but I think, you know, it's worth it, and I'm going to. And so she used to talk to me about it, whether she dared try and do the same thing. So from then on, our relationship was all about how do you do it all? And I realized that I've worked with tons and tons of amazing and wonderful actors and actresses, but I have never had a friend, a real friend, that I could talk to about everything deeply, other than Olivia. Wow. And whether it was on the phone or she would come out, I was in Singapore doing a play. She actually came out and saw me perform there.
To support you.
I saw her countless times, of course, in Vegas. You know, she helped me on every charity I did. I tried to help her in every charity she did. Her daughter became a recording artist and needed a music video. My son was a music video director. They worked together, and we were behind the scenes like proud mamas going, I'm just helping my son with the equipment. She said, I'm helping my daughter, trying to persuade her not to wear that dress, but to wear something else. And we were both, you know, we kind of got off on the fact that we had these sort of slightly parallel lives.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the ups and downs, you know, when she got cancer, when I had a near-death experience, when I had preeclampsia, when, you know, divorces and husbands and boyfriends and life.
Yeah.
We shared it all.
You shared it all. Olivia shared so much of her spirit and energy with everyone she met. I mean, there was an undeniable impact that she left on those people she interacted with. What do you think it is that struck a chord with everyone who had the pleasure of getting to know her?
She's real.
Real.
Very down to earth, very humble, very real, and more interested in you than herself.
Wow.
Genuinely.
Yeah. Her niece spoke to an Australian media outlet. That was just this morning, and she talked about how Olivia really prided herself in helping others and giving back, almost more so than her singing or acting career. Did you find that in the years as you got to know her, that rang true for you also? Oh,
very much so. I mean, I think, probably before she had cancer, but definitely after she had cancer and she decided to be open about it, She had already been raising money for childhood cancers before that. One of her closest friends had a child who died of a rare cancer. So she was already really involved in fundraising, bringing awareness to cancer. And then when she got cancer, and then her sister, of course, and then she got it 3 times, Olivia, she built this amazing hospital in Melbourne, which I went to.
Incredible.
And it was amazing. It was absolutely brilliant. And the thing that was really amazing about it was also what she embodied. It was body, mind, and spirit. They took care of your body. They had alternative and, medical therapies, but they also had meditation. They had a very calming atmosphere there that, if you were going to have to go through cancer, this is where you'd want to be. And I called her up, so excited from there, and she was so proud of this place, so proud of it, and so glad I was there. And then not that long afterwards, I got a call from her from there, and she said, "You'll never guess where I am." And I said, "Where?" She said, "I'm at the hospital you went to visit." I said, And she said, "I'm here as a patient."
Wow.
And then she made a joke, and she said, "You know what? I'm glad I built it, because it's really good and it works." And they're looking after me really well. I went, "I'm glad you built it too."
Oh my goodness. As you mentioned, cancer was something that Olivia battled bravely for years. Did she ever show any fear?
I think she believed that she was going to conquer it. And I think when you have a positive spirit about things, you go through the stages of the shock of the diagnosis, then not really understanding what course of action, having to go through it, which is debilitating, ridiculously, unbelievably debilitating. But she was determined that she was going to make it, and she did for the longest time. I mean, I've spoken to so many people who knew that I was friends with hers, and they'd take me aside a long time ago and say, your friend isn't going to live very long. And I said to them, "You don't know my friend. She is going to get every ounce out of life."
Yeah.
And when I talked to her about surviving yet again, and would she survive, or is she surviving, she said, "I didn't use that word." She said, I call it thriving. She said, and that's, said, we're all going to be gone one day. So right now, I'm just going to grab life by the horns, and I'm just everything, and, I want to do, and everything I don't want to do, I'm not going to do. And she reminded me in a way of my other very close friend, the late Christopher Reeve, who, once he got through what he had to get through for himself, said, "Wait a minute, there's a lot of people here that I could help, even though I'm incapacitated." And I think that's what Olivia did. She was, to the last time I saw her, all she could do was find help for 2 of my very closest friends who are going through cancer right now.
And that was what I was going to ask, was do you remember the last time that you spoke to her or got to see her in person? You're telling me she was trying to help other people in that moment.
Yes, she gave me these magical herbs that she was taking that her husband John had put together. She gave me a special potion for pain. She was recommending therapies and doctors, and got on the phone and spoke to them.
Really?
Yes.
On behalf of other people?
2 friends and people close to me, yes. Wow. She would get on the phone and speak to people. I said, "They're going through this. Do you have any advice?" And she'd say, "Give me their number."
Oh my gosh.
That's who she was.
Do you remember your last words to Olivia?
"See you soon," I think. I mean, I knew it was a privilege for us to see her the last time. I was there with my sisters. She knew that that it was important for them to see her. They were all so close to her. And she had said, "Okay, you can come and see me, but I'm, not really seeing anybody." She asked me not to take photographs, which we didn't. She was incredibly frail. She'd forgotten we were coming that day. She wouldn't let us go away. We waited patiently, and whoever was helping her kind of put some clothes on her and just got her out there. And she just came out with a big smile on her face and just said, "I'm so happy to see you. And I'm sorry." She said, "I'm so sorry. I thought it was yesterday or tomorrow or whatever." And I said,
gosh.
I said, "You shouldn't have got out of bed. You should have stayed." And she said, "No, I wanted to see you." And then she spent what little energy she had asking us about us. How are you? How are the children? What's going on? How's your health? How's your friend? You know, what can I do to help you? And then we sat quietly, and she looked around, she said, isn't it beautiful? And I said, yes, it is, it's beautiful here. She said, no, but every day I try to come out here and I just watch the hummingbirds, and I just look at the birds in the sky, and I just watch nature, I look at the sky, and I look at the dogs, and she said, I'm so blessed. She said, this is heaven.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by the unbelievable outpouring for her.
Yeah.
I knew she was going to go, but I didn't realize that it would, you know, personally impact me in the way of, like, I can't pick up the phone and talk to her. You know, I'm glad for her that she's out of the pain. Yeah. Really glad. I think that was really hard to watch that.
You spoke of her big, generous heart, which we hear so much about. It's been reported on. People who know her personally celebrate it. What do you think her legacy will be for you individually as friends, but then also for the world at large? And I'm sure that that big, generous heart will be a massive part of that legacy.
Well, she has already built this extraordinary world of finding alternative remedies for cancer, the world that her husband is an expert in. I think her attitude towards her disease and the way that she lived her life is inspiring to everyone. I think to anyone that wants to be famous, just take a look at Olivia and see how you do it, because she handled that, you know, brilliantly. And I think her legacy will be her class, you know. She was classy, she was authentic, and she was giving.
Yeah. To sort of add on to that legacy, of course, her beautiful daughter, Chloe. How is she doing? What did she mean to Olivia, first of all? That relationship between mother and daughter, what was it like?
Well, mother and daughters are hard. I've yet to meet a mother or a daughter
I was talking to mine this morning.
that doesn't love their mother or their daughter more than life itself. But when you love someone more than life itself, it can be the toughest relationship in the world. But 100% the love that Olivia has and had for Chloe was undeniable. And, you know, she was the rock of her whole family. But yes, she was really proud of Chloe. She was proud of Chloe, you know, dealing with changes in life and you know, everything. And she was always there for her. And yes, super, super proud of Chloe.
Have you been able to speak to anyone from the family? How are they doing right now?
I only managed, I did, of course, leave messages right away, but you know, they're not going to answer anyone. But I did speak to Emerson, who was Rona's baby, the baby I came to America
years ago.
And he actually called me back, and he told me that they were all with her the day before she died. He got there just in time. He said that she had already, for at least a week, not been really able to communicate with anyone. And that she was, you know, had been medicated and was very peaceful and was at home, and everyone was there, you know, giving her the love they could. And I said, you know, should I talk about her? Because I've been asked to. And he said, oh, absolutely. He said, you knew her as long, if not longer, than most people. And he said, you know, you had quite an impact on my sister's, on my mother's life, his mother, and her sister's life, and you know, you guys had a very definite, unique connection. We never worked together, you know.
Well, that's what's so fascinating, all those years, and this was just the truest sort of friendship, considering both of your stars, right? These massive stars in your industry, and yet this was all from the heart, purely personal, all of those decades.
Purely personal, and I think what was interesting is that neither of us ever feel or felt like we were stars. We were just told we were, and had to work a lot, and sometimes things we did were successful, and sometimes people recognized us, but that wasn't our thing. Our thing was that we, because of that, had a hidden unspoken language of knowing what it's like to have to get up at 4 in the morning when you're not well, knowing what it's like to have to sing when your back is killing you, or your kids have, you know, need you and you can't do something, you know, whatever it is. It was like it was an unspoken language that we could share safely with one another.
Wow. Jane, as the world grapples with the loss of Olivia and celebrates her life, what do you hope people understand most about your friend?
That she was ridiculously talented, humble, fun, funny, generous of time, spirit, and financially, and that I believe she made a huge difference in the way of dealing with cancer, in terms of addressing the fact that it's not a disease, it's the entire body, mind, and spirit, and you have to address all three at once. And it's a person with something that they have to learn to live with, or they have to learn to let go of, and it's a process. And I think she was one of the most spiritual human beings I've ever met.